Mark starts the chapter by talking about self-awareness and how self-awareness is multi-layered, where every layer has its own importance and meaning. The first layer Mark's mention is understanding of one's emotions. It does take time, efforts, and practice to realize how we truly feel about our emotions and our fellow mates. The second layer is ask why do we feel certain emotions. If you fail at something, do you get angry because you fail? Or because someone else won? Or because you fear consequences? Whatever the true reason might be, make sure you are aware of it. Third layer is how do you measure your success and failure? It's your values that determine your perception towards the things that happens in your life and around your life. Much of the advice out there is to make you feel good for a short time, but more the advice makes you feel uncomfortable, more likely it is to be true. Problems may be inevitable, but the meaning of each problem is not. We get to control what our problems mean based on how we choose to think about them. It's the same values we use to measure others and ourselves. And if you want to change your problems and your approach to resolve it, then change your values and how you measure things. Mark goes on and points out a handful of common values that create poor problems for people. First is thriving for pleasure. Indeed, pleasure is important, but doing something in order to seek pleasure is not right, because pleasure is not happiness. If you get other important stuff all right, pleasure becomes a byproduct of it. Second is always being right. By such attitude, you're forever sabotaging your ability to learn from mistakes and to learn from people who have different points of views. Third is always staying positive. It's important to remember that constant positivity is toxic and not a valid solution to your problems. Mark ends the chapter by saying that it's your poor values that create bad problems, whereas it's your rich values that create good problems. And these are the problems that deserve giving a fuck, which makes you struggle and bring happiness in your life, and eventually pleasure. Mark starts by saying how difficult would it be for you if you're made to run 50 kilometers on a gunpoint, and how pleasant would be that running experience if you were doing it with your friends and family. He argues that even though it's the same 50-kilometer run, there are two completely different experiences here. It's because when we get to choose our struggle in the problems, we feel powered, and when we don't get to choose our struggle, we feel miserable. That's why there are two mixed emotions. Mark gives the example of a kid named William James, who grew up with a lot of health issues and was left behind in the academics. Even after being admitted in Harvard to study medical, he dropped out and went to study anthropology and joined an expedition in Amazon rainforest. After struggling there, he was left behind all alone. He carried his struggle and did things on his own way responsibly, and was later recognized as father of American psychology. Mark mentions that with taking responsibilities comes great powers, and the more we choose to accept responsibilities, the more powerful we become from the inside. A lot of people hesitate to take responsibilities for their problems because they believe that by taking responsibilities, it becomes their fault, which is just not true. Faults are the result of our actions that we took in the past, whereas responsibilities are the actions you decide to take at a very moment. Many people may blame one another for their unhappiness, but nobody is responsible for your happiness. What you derive from those moments determines your happiness and misery. And if you ask the question how to change your values, then you just can't, because there's no middle ground. You will either change or won't. There's no how.